So I want you to take a second right now and just think back to your absolute favorite childhood game.
Oh, man. Yeah, we all have one.
Right. You know the exact space I'm talking about. The dirt on your knees, the intense arguments over the rules.
Playing until the streetlights came on.
Exactly. That feeling of just absolute pure freedom where the outside world completely ceased to exist. You forgot to eat. You forgot your homework.
It was the whole universe in that moment.
It totally was.
Mm.
And before we really dive into all that dirt and nostalgia today, I have a quick favor to ask. If you enjoy these literary deep dives here on our Simplified Summary channel, please hit that subscribe button, leave a like, and share your valuable thoughts in the comments.
Yeah, it really helps us keep bringing you these in-depth explorations. We love hearing your takeaways.
We really do. So today our mission is to explore a narrative that perfectly captures that exact feeling of childhood freedom,
Yeah.
only to completely turn it on its head.
Yeah, it takes a pretty sharp turn.
It does. We are looking at a classic piece of Indian literature. It's a short story titled Gulli-Danda, written by the legendary author Premchand.
And this is from his really renowned collection, Mansarovar.
Right. And you're likely already familiar with the basic premise of the story. A lot of people read it in school. But diving back into the text as adults, it reveals that Premchand is executing this profoundly complex sociological critique here.
Oh, absolutely. It's disguised as a simple memory. He's basically using the framework of a universal childhood experience as a mirror. And what it reflects are the deeply ingrained and, honestly, often painful realities of social hierarchy.
Yeah, the text is operating on multiple levels at exactly the same time. On the surface, it's this nostalgic recounting of youth, but structurally functions as this meticulous dismantling of the myth of equality.
Which is such a brilliant way to phrase it, because you see that immediately right in the opening paragraphs. Premchand doesn't just casually present the game of Gulli-Danda.
No, he stages a full-on defense of it.
Right. A passionate, almost combative defense of indigenous culture against imported British norms.
It's so witty, too. The narrator compares Gulli-Danda to Western sports like cricket or tennis, and it is just dripping with this very specific kind of socioeconomic critique.
He really goes after the gatekeeping of Western sports.
He does. He points out that to even participate in those games, you have to navigate this whole series of financial hurdles. You need manicured lawns nets, specific pitches, expensive equipment.
The infrastructure of the game itself is literally designed to keep the masses out.
Yes. The narrator recognizes that Western sports inherently commodify play. They turn recreation into a status symbol.
And then you contrast that with Gulli-Danda, which requires zero capital, none.
Literally zero. Just climb a tree.
Exactly. Climb a tree, cut a sturdy branch, whittle a little peg the gully and a longer stick the danda, and you're playing. The game is on. Premchand is establishing Gulli-Danda as this totally independent space. It exists completely outside colonial or capitalist structures.
And the narrator's dry wit about the safety of these games is just hilarious. It further underscores that whole resentment.
Oh, the injury comparison.
Yeah. People say Gulli-Danda is dangerous, right? That the little peg might fly up and poke an eye out.
Right. And he mocks that idea by pointing out the brutal injuries that happen all the time in cricket.
Fractured skulls, broken legs.
Yeah.
He's basically exposing the hypocrisy of a system that labels indigenous practices as hazardous while totally celebrating the inherent violence of its own elite pastimes.
It's such a sharp observation.
It is, but I don't want to get your thoughts on this. I understand the colonial critique there, and the economic distinction is undeniable. But isn't the narrator also being incredibly naive in these opening pages?
How do you mean?
Well, he just assumes that the game is this great equalizer. He describes the dirt field as a pure democracy, where the son of a wealthy official and the son of a poor laborer stand on totally equal footing. He says the only currency that matters is skill. But he is still the son of the local police inspector. So does true equality ever actually exist on that field, or is he simply romanticizing it through the lens of adult nostalgia?
That is the central tension Premchand introduces so early on. The narrator desperately wants to believe in the democracy of the dirt field. He needs to believe that within the boundaries of the game, those social stratifications just dissolve.
But do they?
To some extent, yes. The primal nature of childhood play does create a temporary suspension of those real-world rules, and we see this perfectly manifested in the undisputed champion of their local club.
Gaya.
Yes, Gaya. Premchand's description of Gaya is so vivid. He focuses on this wild agility. He says Gaya has long, monkey-like fingers and a fiercely short temper.
And on the field, Gaya is the absolute authority.
Completely. The hierarchy is dictated entirely by athletic prowess. And that allows Gaya, who is a low-caste poor boy, to totally dominate the son of a police inspector.
Okay, but that temporary suspension of rules leads directly to this hilarious but also kind of dark breakdown of social decorum during their childhood dispute.
The famous fight over the turn.
Yes, anyone who has ever played a game as a kid knows this exact argument. So the narrator is stuck fielding, or padna, as the text calls it, while Gaya is batting, which is padana.
Right, and the narrator is just exhausted.
He's bored, he's tired of chasing the gully, and he just tries to abandon the game before giving Gaya his turn to bat. It is a brilliant study in childish manipulation.
It really is. Gaya firmly blocks him and demands he finish his turn.
And what does the narrator do? He tries to leverage a prior, totally unrelated transaction to escape. He demands the return of a guava he had given Gaya the day before.
It's so petty and so relatable.
Right, he's basically trying to impose transactional logic onto a space that is supposed to be governed purely by the rules of play.
And when that transactional logic fails because Gaya is absolutely not going to be cheated out of his turn for a guava, the situation devolves into physical violence.
The narrator slaps and bites Gaya.
Which is such a drastic escalation, and Gaya retaliates by striking the narrator on the back with his danda. This physical altercation is really where the illusion of that dirt field democracy starts to fracture.
Because the narrator instantly realizes he is completely outmatched physically, just like he was outmatched in the game. So he resorts to what he explicitly calls his ultimate weapon.
Tears.
Crying, yes. Crying becomes this calculated tactic to force Gaya's surrender. He exploits the fact that Gaya, despite his fierce temper, possesses this basic childhood empathy.
And the narrator is fully willing to weaponize that empathy.
Exactly. The tears neutralize the physical threat. It allows the narrator to run home.
Yeah.
And the text specifically notes that once he is safely out of reach, he starts laughing.
Yeah, he played the system.
Yeah.
But the psychological aftermath of that escape is where Premchand really introduces the insidious nature of caste and class.
How so?
Well, think about it. The narrator has just been physically beaten by a boy who is his social inferior. Yet when he returns home, he actively chooses to hide the incident from his family, from his father, who is the police inspector.
Oh, wow. He doesn't see the protection of his father's authority at all.
No, he internalizes the defeat. And he internalizes it because the shame of being bested by someone of a lower caste is far more potent than the physical pain of the stick.
That makes so much sense. If he tells his father, he has to admit that the social hierarchy failed to protect him in the realm of the game.
Exactly. Even as a child, the narrator is intensely aware of the fragile boundaries between the democratic dirt field and the rigid caste structures of the adult world. He hides the incident to protect his own ego and to prevent the adult world from stepping in and annihilating the sacred space of their play.
So the innocence is already tainted. He already knows his elevated status.
Yes. That childhood innocence is operating on borrowed time from the very beginning.
And we see that borrowed time run out when Premchand jumps the narrative forward 20 years. This is where we see exactly how those rigid structures of the outside world finally crash into that dirt field.
It's a harsh transition.
It is. The narrator returns to his hometown. He's no longer a boy. He is a highly successful, powerful district engineer. He brings with him all the trappings of worldly success, authority, and status.
But he still wants to play.
He does. His desire to reconnect with his roots, and specifically to track down his old champion Gaya, reveals this fascinating cognitive dissonance.
The narrator is essentially chasing a ghost at this point. He desires the unvarnished intimacy of his youth, but he is completely insulated by his current socioeconomic reality.
Right. And when he finally finds Gaya, the physical transformation starkly illustrates the divergent paths dictated by their societal origins.
The agile, fierce champion of the dirt field is gone. He's been replaced by a dark, tall, weathered laborer working as a groom, a syce for horses.
The systemic inequality of their society has physically manifested in Gaya's body and his station in life.
And the reunion itself is agonizing to read because of that unbridgeable gap.
It's so awkward. The narrator expresses a profound internal conflict. His emotional impulse is to run forward and embrace his old friend, to just bridge those 2 decades of separation with physical affection.
But he doesn't do it.
No. His internalized high social status acts as a literal barrier. The embrace never happens. They are just left standing there, engaging in this stiff, overly formal, polite exchange that completely underscores the artificiality of their current relationship.
Yeah, the invisible walls of adulthood have solidified. And the narrator's attempt to dismantle those walls by inviting Gaya to finally finish their decades-old match of Gulli-Danda is Well, it's both tragic and profoundly ignorant of the social dynamics at play.
He genuinely believes that by simply recreating the physical conditions of the game, he can resurrect the emotional equivalents they shared as boys.
But the logistics of that recreation completely expose the hypocrisy of his attempt.
Absolutely. Because he is acutely aware that a high-ranking government official cannot be seen engaging in a children's game with a lowly laborer in the middle of town.
The societal spectacle would be scandalous.
So what does he do? He forces a geographical isolation.
Yeah.
He makes Gaya get into his expensive motorcar, and they drive miles away from the village to an isolated spot.
The motorcar itself is such a brilliant symbol here.
It is. It's this enclosed modern elite space that moves them away from the communal reality of the village. They have to artificially isolate themselves to even pretend the democracy of their childhood still exists.
And that isolation proves that the democracy is dead. If equality can only exist in total secrecy away from the eyes of society, then it is not equality at all. It is merely a private indulgence of the powerful.
That is perfectly stated, which leads directly into the false match they play in secret. The narrator's behavior during this private game strips away any remaining illusion of his benevolence.
He is shameless.
Completely. He bats first, and despite not having played in 20 years, he refuses to accept his own lack of skill. He fumbles, his hits are weak, and instead of gracefully losing, he begins to just alter the rules to his advantage on the fly.
He exercises his real-world authority over the rules of the childhood game. He is operating under the assumption that the dirt field democracy has been restored, yet he plays like an autocrat.
And the pivotal moment of the narrative, the striking of the danda, forces this contradiction out into the open. The sensory detail Premchand uses here is just vital.
The ton sound.
Yes. The gully flies back and strikes Gaya's stick with a loud, sharp ton. It is an unmistakable physical confirmation of an out. The reality of the physical world dictates that the narrator's turn is over.
But the narrator flatly denies that physical reality.
He looks his old friend right in the eye and lies. He claims the gully missed the stick and struck a loose brick on the ground. He basically demands that his fabricated reality supersedes the physical evidence.
Now consider the psychological weight placed upon Gaya in that exact second.
It's heavy.
20 years prior, this was a boy who would engage in physical combat over a minor slight regarding a turn. He chased the narrator down to enforce fairness.
Over a guava and a turn.
Exactly. Now faced with a blatant, undeniable lie that cheats him out of his rightful victory, the adult Gaya's response is a masterclass in conditioned subservience.
He doesn't argue at all.
He does not raise his voice. He simply bows his head and politely agrees. He just repeats the lie back to the narrator. Yes, it must have hit a brick.
It is a devastating moment of psychological surrender. Gaya is actively participating in the erasure of his own reality to appease the ego of the district engineer.
And the narrator's complete lack of self-awareness in this moment is staggering.
It really is. Because when it is finally Gaya's turn to bat, Gaya intentionally fumbles the stick. He makes these weak, uncoordinated swings until he loses his turn in less than a minute.
And the narrator actually feels pity for him.
Right. Sitting in his bubble of manufactured superiority, the narrator genuinely concludes that the harsh labor of the intervening years has caused Gaya to entirely forget how to play their game.
The dramatic irony is suffocating. The narrator pities Gaya for losing his athletic touch, completely blind to the fact that Gaya is flawlessly executing a much more complex high-stakes game.
A survival game.
Precisely. Gaya is managing the ego of a man who possesses the systemic power to destroy his livelihood. The narrator interprets Gaya's intentional failure as a loss of skill, rather than recognizing it as a deeply ingrained survival mechanism.
In a heavily stratified society, the laborer simply cannot afford to defeat the official, even in a private game of sticks and dirt.
To strike out the district engineer would be an unforgivable breach of the social contract.
And that realization, when it finally arrives, reshapes the narrator's entire understanding of his own success.
The match the next day.
Exactly. The catalyst is this official match organized with the other villagers the following day. The narrator chooses not to participate. Instead, he positions his motor car nearby so he can watch the game from a comfortable elevated distance.
The spatial dynamics are impossible to ignore there. He's literally looking down upon the villagers from a position of insulated wealth and power.
And from that elevated vantage point, the illusion he constructed the previous day shatters. He watches the Gaya of his memories resurrect on the field.
Gaya is hitting the gully miles into the sky with absolute precision,
demonstrating an athletic dominance that proves his performance the day prior was entirely fabricated. But the true revelation comes when a younger player attempts to cheat Gaya in the exact same manner the narrator had.
Oh, Gaya's reaction is explosive. The subservient laborer vanishes. He is replaced by the fierce, uncompromising champion of the dirt field.
He flares up. He aggressively confronts the younger player, vehemently arguing the rules, refusing to concede an inch until they are literally on the verge of physical combat. He demands absolute adherence to the physical reality of the game.
The contrast is brilliant. Between Gaya's explosive defense of the rules against a peer and his immediate silent surrender to the narrator's lie, it forces the narrator to confront the profound truth of their relationship.
Gaya had not forgotten how to play Gulli-Danda.
Not at all. He had spent the last 20 years learning the intricate, unforgiving rules of the social hierarchy. He knew precisely who he was playing with the day before.
He was not playing with his childhood friend. He was playing with a district engineer, an authority figure.
He bowed his head and accepted the lie not out of politeness or faded skill, but out of a recognized necessity to protect the fragile ego of a superior caste.
And the aha moment for the narrator is just laced with profound grief. He realizes that the innocence of their youth, that brief window where the societal gap between a police inspector's son and a low-caste boy could be temporarily bridged by a piece of wood, is permanently destroyed.
The structures of the adult world are absolute.
The tragedy of the story is deeply systemic. The narrator's educational and professional success has permanently alienated him from the only space where he ever experienced true, unvarnished equality.
He possesses all the wealth, power, and status society can offer, but he recognizes in that moment that he can never again simply be a boy playing a game with his friend.
Gaya respects his authority, he fears his status, but he no longer engages with him as a human equal.
Premchand forces the reader to examine the immense collateral damage of upward mobility within a rigid hierarchy. The story utilizes the simplest zero-cost childhood game to expose the fact that worldly success often demands the sacrifice of our most authentic connections.
The narrator gained the world, but he lost the dirt field. And in doing so, he lost the only version of Gaya that ever truly mattered to him.
It is a phenomenal piece of writing. It strips away the romanticism of nostalgia to reveal the cold architecture of class disparity.
It really does.
Yeah.
Which leaves you, the listener, with a lingering, provocative thought to mull over. Think about the spaces of pure equity in your own past. Those early friendships where the only metrics of value were humor, speed, or imagination?
The dirt fields of your own life.
Exactly. As the diverging paths of adulthood, your career trajectories, your income brackets, your evolving social standings have played out, consider the invisible walls that have slowly constructed themselves around you.
It's a tough question to ask yourself.
It is. Have you, like the narrator, unknowingly required the people from your past to play a different, more subservient game when they interact with you today? What unvarnished, authentic connections have been traded away in the pursuit of the elevated view from the motorcar?
The text demands that we scrutinize not just the society that builds these walls, but our own complicity in maintaining them.
It truly does. We hope this exploration gave you something meaningful to chew on today. Before you go, remember to like this video, leave your thoughts on Premchand's masterful critique in the comments section, and subscribe to the Simplified Summary channel so you never miss a deep dive. Thank you for exploring this profound narrative with us. Until next time.